All right, if I can get everyone seated, please. Congratulations on your chemistry club. That's awesome. This is fantastic. We were talking about numbers. One, I said I don't want to do it in McKinsey Theater because I didn't want it to be a production. So I knew we'd be tight, but this is a phenomenal turnout. I'm excited to start off this 86th academic year. What you'll hear from me going forward, not just today, but in many communications, is 2029. What's special about 2029? Our 100-year anniversary, and I really want to begin a process of us looking forward that way and building a vision of what EOU is going to be when we all come together in a much bigger environment than we are today to celebrate 100 years at EOU. As I think all of you know, my name's Tom Insko. I'm the new president. It's an honor for me to be here with you today, and thank you for coming. Before we really get things kicked off, I guess you could say a sad note, but also a celebration of a life. We just learned last night of the passing of one of our very special students, Ronnie Witcraft. I didn't know Ronnie, but Donald Wolf is going to come up and say a few words, and then we'll have a moment of silence in honor of Ronnie. Donald?
Thank you, Tom. So it is with great sadness that I announce the passing of Ronnie Witcraft. He died at home yesterday after a valiant fight against cancer. I got to know Ronnie when I first became vice provost, and he managed the Veterans Resource Room. Those who know Ronnie well admire his courage, faith, dedication, intelligence, forthrightness, sense of humor, love of aviation, and motorcycle riding. I don't know if he combined those, but I wouldn't put it past him. It took almost everything he had to make it through the graduation ceremony last June, when he was wheeled across the stage with the assistance of James Benton. When he was first diagnosed, he told me that he was determined to cross that stage. It was one of his proudest moments. So please observe a moment of silence to honor Ronnie, his family, his friends, and his communities of faith, service, and learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Donald. Before we get things going, we have a number of speakers, as you've seen on the agenda for today. I do want to give a shout out to our sponsors today, Sodexo. I'll be talking about Sodexo a little bit later as well, our new food service provider. So thank you, Sodexo, for sponsoring breakfast and lunch, and also an important partner, and you'll see some of their wares out there outside when we are outside later today. Legacy Ford has sponsored breakfast and lunch as well, so we really appreciate those two sponsors supporting this institution beyond just today. And being a partner with us. These partnerships are extremely important. I think everybody, I was kind of making rounds, and I think everybody put name tags on. We have a lot of new faces. We have board members. I'm a new president. And so I'd ask that if you haven't put a name tag on, please do so. It will also be beneficial during the work session, as I do intend on kind of breaking up your usual groups to mix it up a little bit, because I think that's important for the conversation that we'll have during the work session. At this time, I'd like to call your attention to the New Faces flyer. And this will take a little bit of time, but I think it's important to call out the new faces of the institution. Now, I will say we're going to change this process going forward. What we are working on is a formalized approach for announcing to the institution's new people that join our team during the course of the year. I think that's important. I like to understand who's joining our team, and obviously I think it's important for them to feel welcomed into our team. But in the meantime, what I do want to do today is acknowledge everyone that's joined us over the course of the last year. I'm going to read your name and your area that you're working in, and I'd ask that you just stand up. Let's hold applause or anything like that. Because of the sheer number of people, it could take up to half an hour. But I do want to read off the names. We have Brenna Dunlap, with her title being Healthcare Programs Coordinator. I don't think Brenna's here today. Suzanne Schmidl is an Office Specialist, EOU Hermiston. And we have Priscilla Valero, who is a Director of EOU Ontario. They're in our academic advising area. I don't think any of those three are here. So if you're looking, what? Excuse me? They're working. Someone's got to be doing that, right? In admissions, we have two additions. Cody Lovelady, Regional Admissions Counselor for Multicultural Recruitment. I believe he's in Portland and didn't come over for this. And that's actually where he's working out of, correct, Javier? This is kind of a new move for us to have recruitment in the Portland area where we can bring some of the urban students out to Eastern Oregon and show them what we have to offer. I'm excited about that addition. And then we have Lori Mosley as an office specialist too in admissions. It's Lori. Thanks, Lori. In athletics, we have a number of additions. Nathan Kress is the assistant football coach. Seth Dolly is the new sports information and marketing director. I don't think Seth's here. Haley Mulvihill is our new assistant athletic trainer. Nicholas Roberson is an assistant football coach. Stanley Rodriguez is our new head soccer coach. And Justin Wager is our other new head soccer coach. And hopefully you guys have seen the press on both those programs, setting a great example already at the start of this year. Very exciting, especially where we have the new men's soccer team starting up. A great group of guys that Stanley's brought in. In the College of Arts and Science, we have Arun Sharma, visiting professor, assistant professor in ceramics and sculpture. We have, bear with me if I get this wrong. I apologize in advance. We even practiced, but Kumkum Bhattacharya, Bhattacharya. Sorry. Bhattacharya. And Mariana Bakina is a visiting assistant professor of psychology. Kumkum is a visiting assistant professor of geography joining us this year. And then we have James Stolen, who is a visiting assistant professor of English and writing. Let's see, James. In the College of Business and Education, we have Alyssa Cohen, senior instructor of education. Wow, all these new people. Okay. Up in the upper deck, we have Teresa Krauser, office specialist 1. Dwight Denman, associate professor of business. Hi, Dwight. Michael Fields, senior instructor of business. Hi, Michael. Julie Kinnery is the Greater Oregon STEM facilitator. And Wilson Zier is the assistant professor of business. So welcome to the College of Business and Education. In facilities, I think I'm going to pronounce this right, Katja Merrick I got to meet her over in Quinn, a great new addition with a new young baby. Chris Nance, a custodian, and Marcia Tubbs is also a custodian, taking care of our grounds and facilities, doing a great job. We've got a great facilities crew. Finance and administration, we have Cora Beach that's joined the team this last year. Cora. And Chris Martins, and our events and conference manager that helped put all this together. Thank you, Chris. Naomi Toonstra is in financial aid. She's a financial aid counselor. And Lindsay Willis is an office specialist in financial aid. In IT, information technology, Tanis Irwin is an analyst programmer. Tanis is back in the back. Jace Wheeler is an audio-visual technician. And Gunnar Wind is an analyst programmer. Young people. Interesting how that works, huh? In the President's office, we have Chris Burford as General Counsel. And I'll skip me. Cheryl Martin as Director of Human Resources. And Heidi Tilicki is a administrative assistant for Chris as General Counsel. In the Provost office, we have Holly Chasen, Director of Institutional Research, and we have Nathan Smoots, who is the Analyst Programmer. Nathan's a graduate of EOU, as others are, I should know. In the Registrar's office, we have Taylor Evans as an office specialist, too, and Casey Lane as an administrative program assistant. In Residence Life, we have Jana Dick, administrative program assistant. And I just met Stephanie day before yesterday when I met with the RAs, and I hope I don't destroy this. Sepulveda? Veda? Sepulveda. Thank you. I'm slow. I have a math degree, not English or anything like that. Student accounts, Kirby Floyd, cashier too. I have a good fun with Kirby. Student services, Justin Chin, Career Center Director. Michael Hatch, Outdoor Program Coordinator. Michael's up on the top deck as well, as you would expect. He'll rappel down later. Jeremy Jones, our Director of Housing Operations. Is Jeremy here? I think he's doing RA training. Yeah, he did mention that to me in an email last night. And then in University Advancement, we have Christopher Jennings as Digital Marketing Manager, the guru of the web. And Rick Paradis, Director of Development in our foundation team. So let's give all of them a warm welcome with an applause. You'll see a pretty consistent thing. We have a lot of new faces, a lot of changes, but that's exciting. It brings new energy. I can't wait until we get our students, more of our students. We have our student athletes here on campus and the energy that brings as well. With that, what I'd like to do is start off by introducing our chair of our new governing board, Senator David Nelson. He lives in Pendleton, has been very involved, obviously, through the selection committee process and working through this transition from OUS to our new local board. And David wanted to share a few words with us today.
Thank you, Tom, and it's really an honor and a pleasure to be here today. Such an exciting time. I want to say wow, wow, wow. I also know we have some issues to address, things to accomplish. And so before I introduce the new board of directors, what I'd like to do is just touch upon maybe 3 subjects that the board is considering in our deliberation. We're just new as of July 1st. But the first one basically is a history and the tradition and the success of Eastern Oregon University. That's number one, that this is a very successful university. Number two is that we have a patience with a purpose, because we're new. We're figuring out where we're going, what we're going to do. So we have to have patience in where we're going to. And the third thing is the teamwork. How are we going to get to the point where we make Eastern even more successful? And we have a team within this university, and we'll talk about that just in sort of short terms. But going back to the first item, the history and the tradition and the success of Eastern. Ray Brown, who's sitting here, is on our board of trustees, at our last retreat made sure that our board knew that this is a very successful university. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I don't know if he said those exact words, but that's exactly what he was saying. This is a very successful university. So let's build on that success. So that's the direction that we're going to go. And we're in a listening phase right now. We want to get this project right, because we have a new president, we have a new board, we have new rules coming from the state of Oregon. The whole paradigm has changed, basically. And yet the solid foundation is the success of Eastern Oregon University. So that's our number one goal. We're going to build on that. And I think the advantage of the new board is the fact that a lot of the board members are graduates of Eastern. We're going to be involved in the communities. We're going to be involved in what's happening in the university. You know, in the old system, basically the board came out of the Willamette Valley. So what they would do is they would choose a president and then kind of forget about us out here, unless there was some trouble. And then they'd scurry around and try and figure out what was going on. So the advantage that we have, I think, is you have this interactive board that is very concerned about the success of Eastern. And we're in a learning phase too, and so we're going to continue to try and do those things that are going to make you folks successful in your jobs. And that goes to this concept of having patience with a purpose. Many of our board members want to do something right now. Just get it done. Whatever it is, let's get it done. But we have to have some patience to figure out where we're going, what we're going to be doing. In fact, one of our board members, Bill Johnson from the Treasure Valley, he has this concept after our retreat, and if I can get this right, it's sustained priorities in a strategic context. And he'll even say, now, what does that mean? Well, that's what we're trying to, that's what our board is going to do. What are our strategic priorities that we need to operate under this new higher education system that the state of Oregon has sent down to us? And that leads us into the third thing, that's the teamwork part of it. I've identified at least 10 different interest groups internally within the university system. You've got the students, you've got the faculty, you've got the classified staff, you've got the university council, you've got the president's office. Now you have us as a new board. You have unions that represent the faculty and unions that represent the classified staff. You've got the foundation board members. You've got alumni board members. You've got folks that all have maybe a little bit different approach to how this university should proceed. But I think all of them have the same goal, is that we want Eastern to be successful. And then you start talking about the exterior parts of it, and the city of LeGrand, Union County, all of the regions that exist that send students to the university. That's an important part. And then you have the further exterior parts. You've got the governor, you've got the legislature, you've got a new board called the Higher Education Coordinating Council. What is their role in all of this? And frankly, from my viewpoint, what I'm seeing is that I have more concern about those external folks. What is the legislature going to do? One of the things that happened in the 2013 session, when we were trying to figure out all these things out, there was a movement to make Southern Oregon University a satellite campus of the University of Oregon, and Eastern Oregon University a satellite of Oregon State. Well, we scuttled that, so that was taken care of. But that's kind of the mindset. So I'm more, in some respects, more concerned about those external forces than I am about what's going internally, because this is a very successful university. But we have to look at this as a team. How are we going to make Eastern Oregon University a true success and continue the things that are really happening in this university? So that's where we're at. We're open and we're available. I think we have a very committed board. We have a board that's very concerned about the future of Eastern Oregon University, and will do everything they possibly can to make it a success. And so with that, I'd like to start introducing some of our board members. And I'm going to start on the Treasure Valley side and just go right down Interstate 14, because one of the things we're trying to do is to increase our presence within our region. And so our board is basically in a stretch of about 250 miles from the Idaho border clear through Morrill County. So Holly Kerfoot, I think she's sitting over here. Holly, where are you? Stand up right over there. She's a graduate of Eastern, living in the Treasure Valley area, and is totally committed. She's one of our board members that says, I want something to do. Give me something to do. So we're working on that, Holly. We truly are. Bill Johnson, who's also in the Treasure Valley area. He's not a graduate of Eastern, but he's a graduate of MIT. He's worked for Microsoft. Excel program, has now returned to his hometown and is now operates an irrigated farm in that area. And then we go to Baker's Pat Hitton. Where is Pat Hitton? She's sit back there in the back. She's the classified staff representative and is a very able voice for the university system and for our board member, and keeps us on our toes all the time. In fact, during the presidential search process, it was a pretty serious time, and so we're getting kind of involved in this thing. And so her question to all of the candidates was, can you ride a horse? So she brings a little levity and a little bit of a realistic viewpoint of the world. Abel Mendoza, where are you at? He's back here. 30 years in Dow Chemical, taught at the university here as faculty for 10 years. A very capable person. He's kind of our silent member, but he always, when he speaks with authority and with a lot of knowledge, and appreciate it. We have one other member, Richard Chavs from Baker City, who is not here. He's actually meeting with the governor today. So we have people that are, we're trying to make contacts because we're involved in a political world. He's a graduate of Eastern and runs a consulting business. And then we have Cheryl Martin. Where's Cheryl? She's right there. Graduate of Eastern, taught school for 20 some odd years, and is now owner-operator of a cattle ranch. And her connection with education and agriculture is just, really, really something. Dixie Lund, where's Dixie at? I don't have to say much about Dixie and her commitment to Eastern, but always a very, very good voice. Ray Brown, who's the faculty representative, does an excellent job, and as I indicated, he's always making sure that the board knows that this is a very successful university, and let's take care of that and let's build on that particular strength of ours. Elsie Prager-Goller is in Portland. She's taking care of her mother. Her mother has a serious illness, and so she cannot be here, but she's a student representative. Then going down the line, Roberta Bobby Connors, who is the cultural director of the Confederated Tribes of Umatillas. Her mother was a graduate of Eastern Oregon University, and she has a great connection with education. She serves on several boards, national boards, tribal boards. She's our connection with the Native American population. And in the Hermiston area, Jer Pratton, where are you, Jer? Our world traveler, there he is. He was superintendent of the Hermiston School District. That's what shows this thing. But he's done so many things in the education field. He's superintendent at Beaverton and someplace out in the east side. Was it David Douglas? What? Gresham Barlow. Okay. And so he has a great interest in education and is still working as a consultant in that field. Then we have George Mendoza over here standing on the wall. He's the assistant superintendent at the Morrow County School Districts in Morrow County. Does just a great job. He has a daughter that's going to be coming to Eastern this year, I think is enrolling, so that's, he has a commitment to that. And so you can see from this area, and myself, I'm not a graduate of Eastern, but my sister and my brother-in-law, Larry Applegate and Karen Applegate, were graduates of Eastern, so I have a connection with Eastern, and I have just this great belief in higher education. So that's our board. We're open to any conversation. We are going to do everything we possibly can to continue the success of Eastern. So thank you very much. We appreciate all the work that you've done. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I'll make a couple more comments about the board later on today, because I think it's important to highlight a couple of things that I think is unique about our board versus across the state, the other 6 institutions. At this point, it's an honor for me to introduce Mike Alstott, who is the president of the Eastern Oregon University Foundation. I'm not going to have a lot of time to talk about how important philanthropy is, but it's definitely a pillar of success for us that we've got to continue to build upon. And so I'm pleased that Mike was willing and in fact wanted to get up here and speak with you about the foundation's role in supporting this university. So Mike.
Before I begin, I'd like to give you an advertisement real quick. Legacy Auto Group, which is sponsoring this, sponsors a lot of things on campus, and I would encourage everybody to give Legacy a chance to earn your business, whether it's a new vehicle, used vehicle, anything, because those sponsorships are critical to a lot of things that happen on campus. They relieve budgetary pressures from other groups. Legacy works really well with the foundation to support a lot of things on campus. So my advertisement, I also understand they have special programs for EOU faculty and staff as well, so give them a shot. That's my advertisement. I'm Mike Alstott. I'm the current president of the Eastern Oregon University Foundation. I'm a proud graduate of Eastern 1985. I'm the 4th member of my family to graduate from Eastern. My parents were graduates. My sister Deb Alstott was a graduate, and I made it through Eastern. The foundation was created in 1964 to raise funds to support the mission of Eastern Oregon University. I'll give you some of the key numbers that we work with. We currently manage assets over $13 million. This year we will award over $450,000 in scholarships to Eastern Oregon University students. The foundation direct support to Eastern Oregon University is over $750,000 annually. The foundation budget pays for alumni relations, supports university advancement positions, and provide grants to support numerous EOU programs like Powwow and the Basalt publication. However, these numbers are meaningless if you don't understand the people and motivation behind them. The foundation is governed by a board of approximately 15 trustees who absolutely love this university and the vital role it plays in our region. We are confident in EOU's future and have faith in Eastern and are proud to commit our time, talent, and treasure. Trustees like myself are committed to serving Eastern because this school made opportunities possible for us, and it changed our lives and continues to shape the future of today's students. I had the privilege of learning from amazing faculty like Doug Spear, Leroy Damewood, and Paul Steffes. I also worked for Mike Doherty for 3 years in the residence halls. Mike was instrumental in teaching me how to relate to my peers and the university staff. We all have stories about fantastic teachers and mentors who helped us find success and are dedicated to continuing the legacy of Eastern. You may not know who serves on the foundation board or as a board of trustees, but that's not important. What is important is that we are here and we are dedicated to the mission of Eastern Oregon University, and we will continue to be here for this university. I'm also here to encourage you to participate in the foundation in supporting Eastern. Our scholarships are often the critical component for incoming students and their ability to attend Eastern Oregon University. People give to Eastern for a variety of reasons. Primary is they have a relationship to the university. It's more than just a college on the hill. Some of these relationships go back 50 years or more to their days at Eastern when they were students. Some people haven't been back to campus in 30 or 40 years, yet we receive money, which is vitally important to the foundation. Other folks enjoy activities on campus like athletics, music programs, visiting poets, and other learning events that connect Eastern to a much larger world. Some people have hired EOU graduates and are impressed with the quality of their education and understand the importance of a well-educated workforce. Others support Eastern because they understand the critical role it plays in our community in attracting people to our region. I chose to start my business in La Grande and live in La Grande because EOU is here. So what can you do to help? Here comes the sales pitch. Primarily, we need your help in locating people who have a connection to Eastern. So I encourage you to go through your Rolodex, your card file, your contact list with a mind thinking of who have I taught, who have I sent out into the world that has the capacity and the willingness to and the desire to re-engage with our university. If you'll provide us information on those people, we'll be happy to work with you to re-engage them and get them involved in the university. Many people out there have capacity, but they don't get contacted or they've lost a relationship somewhere. So we need your help in reestablishing. I also ask if you would consider giving of your own resources to the foundation. There are multiple ways to give, and I encourage you to contact the University Advancement Office if you need more information. Also, if you have any questions about the foundation or our work or what we do on campus, please feel free to ask me or any of the advancement team. There's also a lot of information on our website, eou.edu/foundation. We'll be happy to help. So thank you again for this opportunity, and have a wonderful year.
Thank you, Mike. It is exciting what the foundation's doing. When I joined the foundation and on the board in 2006, we had assets of less than $5 million. It's grown to $13 million. I have high hopes. I won't throw out the number. I don't want the development team to start sweating yet in terms of what we're going to do over the course of the next 14 years when we celebrate in 2029 EOU's 100-year anniversary. At this time, it's a pleasure to introduce Addie, our ASEOU student body president. ASEOU, it was ASEOSC when I was here, played a huge role in my development. And it's so cool to see students like Addie step up and both learn and also contribute to EOU in so many ways. Addie's already been in Salem advocating for this university. She's a tireless advocate and cheerleader for this university. It's cool. She was playing soccer, and she's dedicating more of her time to this. But rather than me talking about Addie, I want to get her up here so that she can share with you some talking points. Addie.
I'm a little bit shorter than everybody else, so I apologize. Wow, that's three very difficult people to follow. So I just want to start with good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here. I am extremely grateful that I was given the opportunity to speak. I have a lot to say to everyone in this room. And yeah, touching on what Tom said about my role in ASEOU, being elected student body president is the coolest thing that ever happened to me. I beam with pride whenever people ask about that. It's a huge badge of honor to represent this university, the students that come to EOU, and the faculty that serve these students. I'm extremely grateful for my experience here, and all of you. You have shaped me in ways that I can't even express, and I'm extremely grateful for that. The new faces that Tom pointed out, I cannot wait to see what you contribute to EOU, because all of the faculty members that I do know, have done amazing things for this university, and all of the students, I think, recognize that. Talking about what my role, I guess, at this university, I do a lot of advocating. I represent students. I think the thing that we have in common are students. I kind of want to be the liaison between what you are thinking and what students are wanting. I think EOU has been put kind of through the ringer the past couple of years, and I think we're starting to kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm really excited about that. But there are things that come up in the school year where I will be the person vocalizing what students want, and you're going to have to turn around and say, well, this is what the faculty thinks, and I'm kind of that person in between. And that's a difficult job, but I'm really excited to do it. I wanted to speak on the board as well. I've had the opportunity to get to know a lot of the people on the board, and that's something truly amazing as well. I was telling David at our table that I spoke with a lot of the students from other schools, and they were complaining about how they haven't really gotten to know their board members. And I turned around and said, well, EOU has an amazing board. All of those people are open to me all the time at our retreat. They listened to what I had to say. They got to know me. They care a lot about the university, and they're from the region. And the University of Oregon, sorry to bag on them, but I'm going to. They were saying that they really don't get to know their trustees as well. And I mean, Ann Curry, she's amazing, but she doesn't get to go to as many of their meetings. She finally went to one last week, but they don't have that connection, and that's something that I really, really appreciate about this university, and I think it's something we're doing right. Other than that, I think that just kind of what I have planned for the year, because I was told that's something I should talk about. I am really excited to say that I'm building a lot of connections with a lot of students from the other schools, and I think that's something that EOU hasn't really done super well in the past. And I think that the focus of what students are wanting in Oregon and what EOU is wanting is very in sync, and that's really exciting. I know that we are prioritizing kind of the same thing. I'm also going to brag for another second about EOU in that we are, I think, bounds ahead of some of the other schools in how we are working towards prioritizing some of those issues. I know that Portland State was really bent out of shape about not having more resources for non-traditional students or single parents, such as childcare, and that's something we are currently working on. And I'm just really excited about that, and I cannot wait to see what this university does this year and what I can help our university do this year, because I love being a Mountaineer. Thank you.
Thanks, Addie. My claim to fame, the first time I went to Salem, I hope you're much more successful. I was advocating against Measure 5. Needless to say, it passed, which created some of our funding challenges. Before I move into some of my points that I'd like to raise with all of you, I do want to remind everyone the most important event happening next week, Wednesday, September 23rd, where we welcome the new students to EOU. I hope you will join me and the rest of the team cheering them on. We'll have shirts, as we did last year, that all of you can get if you show. I hope we are able to show our new students a very warm welcome. We have an exciting week. I wish I could participate more. The student services team are doing some phenomenal things to change up week of welcome for our new students, which includes some interesting activities out at the 4-H Center, out towards Somerville, a lot of outdoor activities, really creating community for these new incoming students, and building on what Addie said in terms of connection. I think a distinction that EOU can have that other universities don't choose to focus on. So bear with me. I said when I was hoping to be appointed as the new president that one of the first things I would do would listen. And as you know, I was appointed on July 1. And over the summer, many of you weren't here. And so I haven't had the opportunity to interface with you. I have interacted with a lot that were on campus. I did make a point of trying to connect with some of you before the end of the school term back in June. But unfortunately, you have to endure about 30 minutes of me talking at you. That's not exactly how I like my first interaction to be with many of you, but understand that, as Chair Nelson said, my intention is to spend a lot of time listening and asking questions, especially this fall, as I build a broader context to this university and allow you guys to help educate me on what makes EOU special beyond what I've already experienced through my time here and other activities associated with the university. So I want to start off by saying thank you. Last year was a challenging year. I wasn't in the middle of it, but from the outside and from what I've heard in terms of talking with you and interacting with those that report directly to me, it wasn't fun, it wasn't easy. Tough decisions were made, and people's lives were impacted. I don't want that to happen again. But I don't want to focus on the past. Because if we continue to focus on the past, our conversations will be about no possibility. We'll be talking about what was wrong. We'll be talking about who did things wrong. I do believe in learning from the past, but once we've learned from the past, let's focus on the future and decide what that future is going to look like. And so I really want us to start looking forward. That's going to be my focus going forward, is what are we going to create? What are we going to look like when we celebrate our 100-year anniversary? Some things happened over the summer that you may be mildly aware of that I wanted to highlight for everyone. Some pretty significant things. Hey, we got increased in investment from our state. Hallelujah. It's not where we want to be, but through the efforts of many, some of you, our governing board, other advocates, voices were heard in Salem differently than they have in the past. I think that's one positive result of this governance change, because the conversation with the legislators was heard differently, and possibilities were seen in increased investment that wouldn't have been seen otherwise. So I'm excited about that. The original budget came out at $655 million for higher ed, and we finished at about $700. We're already working on an increased ask for the special session. So I'm excited about continuing to get our state to reinvest in higher education. We're still well below what we were back in 2007, so we've got more work to do. Another real exciting thing for me was I think it's still tentative. I don't think it's been ratified. Maybe Bud knows whether it's been fully voted on. But the SEIU contract, we have a tentative agreement. Obviously, anytime you have contract negotiations going on, there's emotional components to that. And it's nice that we are moving beyond that and we can focus on making EOU better collectively as a team without that distraction that comes along with that. So I'm excited that we have that in place going forward, or I believe we will. And then two new things that you have already heard about. You have a new president, you have a new governing board. This is obviously going to change the context in which we've operated historically and impact where we do go forward. And I do want to say, since this is probably on your mind, it was definitely a question I got a lot of before I even officially came on, academic leadership. Very valid question. What are we going to do? Some were advocating that we push forward very quickly. I hesitated on that. I wanted to be very methodical in our approach. I'm working on a final plan. We'll announce what that plan will be in mid-October. I'll obviously work with our board in terms of how that will work. What I'm referencing, obviously, is we have interim provost, Sarah. We have 2 interim deans in place. They're doing a great job. They've been fabulous resources for me. I'm excited about how they're responding to the team dynamics that we're building. in our leadership group. And I do want to acknowledge those three in particular. They had tough jobs. Yes, people were impacted, but it's equally as hard to be driving those decisions. And it's really easy for people to step back and look at those decisions from your individual context and think, I wouldn't do that. But you don't necessarily have the full context of what those individuals were dealing with through this transition. That's why collectively I don't want to get in the position where we put any people in those kinds of positions, where we have to make cuts because they're required to get our financial situation in place versus making decisions that actually enhance the institution going forward. So I do want to acknowledge Sarah, Regina, and Danny for their work and the tough decisions they had to deploy across this organization through their leadership role. We will be moving forward, though, with a plan soon to make sure we get these positions filled permanently so people understand where things stand in the future. Wrestling. Some of you may know that we got an earmark out of Salem, $300,000 to start a wrestling program. How many knew that? A lot of you. Wow. Kind of asked the team when I came in, how does that happen? Did we ask for this? Kind of interesting dynamic I won't get into, but it's nice to have that $300,000 sitting out there. We have not made the decision yet. $300,000 does not necessarily, having that out there doesn't necessarily mean that's a good decision. It's very intriguing to me because it's both men's and women's wrestling that we're contemplating. Women's wrestling is on the very early part of the introduction curve, and so I see a lot of possibility for women's wrestling. I'm actually more excited about the possibilities around that than men's wrestling. How many know Ronda Rousey or whatever? Yeah, look at the young lady up front. There is a lot of positive buzz in this space. The state of Washington, high school women's wrestling is taking off. Northern California, it's taking off. And these student athletes don't have options at the university level. Very few. Southern Oregon just added women's wrestling this year, and they've had great success in attracting talent. So we're analyzing that, and the reason we're not just pulling the trigger and moving forward is we need to make very prudent decisions and think through the whole process, because the real hurdle in wrestling is facility infrastructure. We don't have space for our wrestlers, and so we're looking at, can we develop a temporary plan to address wrestling with a long-term solution out there. So a team's working diligently on that, and I anticipate we'll have an answer to what we're going to do in the coming months. And last but not least, and Addie brought this up, child care facility. I appreciate that President Kenton gave me the opportunity to weigh in even before I was officially in the position. There had been a lot of work to position ourselves to have a child care facility this fall. When we sat down and walked through the economics, there were some gaps there that I wasn't comfortable moving forward with a lack of clarity in terms of how we were going to fund things. I didn't think it was appropriate to take that kind of risk when we were also having people lose jobs. And so I pushed the pause button. I'm excited about the possibilities. We have a team working on developing a plan for having child care facility here next fall. We have some funding gaps that we need to cover, but we've already identified a potential another partner that can bring resources to the table, so I'm cautiously optimistic. We're going to put together a plan that we're going to have a child care facility that provides connection with our community, that provides a service to our students and our faculty and staff, and also has a curriculum integration opportunity that can set EOU apart in our early childhood development programming and such, so we can actually, hopefully, build enrollment both from the service there as well as the curriculum that's unique to EOU. So I'm excited about that as well, and obviously we'll be updating all of you as things develop on those projects. So I want to pop back to a little bit of the past. of where we've been, but also acknowledge some things in this graph of what you guys accomplished last year through your hard work. What this represents is our fund balance, our reserve account balance at the end of the academic year each year, so 06 through 2015. So the 2015 gold dot up there is June 30th of this year. As you can see, I like hockey sticks, and we have a hockey stick here where we literally were a negative fund balance, as I think everybody knows, that created the crisis for the sustainability plan. And this year we finished just under $2.5 million in our reserve account. Congratulations on where we positioned the university, because now we can start talking about the future versus figuring out how are we going to survive. Now I do want to highlight something. I put up in red, for a reason, the fund balance goal, which is 10% of our budget. That's why it increases over time. It's not that I'm just escalating it for kicks and giggles. So it's 10% of our operating budget. Our operating budget's about $40 million. It's $39 plus million for this next year. And so consequently, we need about $4 million if we hit that 10%. We're still below what the old OUS system said you needed to be financially sustainable. The thing I want to highlight here is this is not a zone I want us as an institution to be in. 8 of 10 years we've been in the red zone. Now in football, the red zone's great, right? Not so much in financial measures. And so we've got to develop a system where we only bounce into that red zone in very extreme cases. And so that's one of the charges that I have on my list, and we're working with the team to develop systems to ensure that we don't end up there going forward. I don't have time to go into great detail in any of these areas. I apologize. We're going to have lots of opportunities to talk about this as we go forward. But congratulations on what you've done. I want to take a little bit of time to highlight a lot of the positives, some of the positives, I should say, that occurred during the course of the last year. And a lot of this is work in process or activities that we're focused on as a result of sustainability that I think have actually positioned us quite well to go forward. One of those things is we received the NSF STEM grant, over $500,000 of grant funding for us to continue our work in that area that's so critical for this region. I do want to also throw a shout out to Dr. Cavanato and our chemistry club team that just received notice today, and I don't have a lot of details on this, but they're going to be recognized for all of their work over the course of last year amongst chemistry clubs across the nation, correct? So just a... Our students are doing great things. Our faculty are doing great things. I'm just really proud of what you guys even accomplished while we were going through this difficult time as an institution. The other thing that has been accomplished that's just basically a critical systematic type of thing that we have to have is, can students, advisors, faculty look out across our schedule and build a pathway to graduation for our students? We didn't have that clarity. That was missing. That was a huge gap for us, and Sarah and team, many others, have been working on developing that visibility through the degree program. And so now we have the 2-year schedule out on Webster, and we have the 4-year schedule out on DegreeWorks. I don't know all the details as to exactly why we have 2 different systems out there, but I'm glad to know that we have made that stride, and we're continuing to develop those systems, and we're also looking at other technology to help really create the visibility of a pathway for a student to look at. How do I get from week of welcome to 4 years from now graduating and with a degree and a career? Because that's what we're about, is either a career or moving on to graduate school out of here, and having the systems in place to ensure that success. We got 2 new degrees approved, which is really exciting because they're critical to this region. The Bachelor of Applied Science, which is really a feeder off of associate degrees and career technical type programs that are critical to this region. We've got some work in terms of implementation of that degree, but it really feeds a pipeline for students to advance their development after they've got an associate's degree, and EOU can play that role, and it also feeds the transfer student pipeline, obviously, that is so critical to our success going forward. And then we have the Emergency Medical Service Administration degree that we're offering now too, where there's much career opportunity out there, so it's a pathway for success for students. I do want to highlight Eastern Promise because I think it's critical to our future success. As you guys know, it's been highlighted as a model program, which means that's a signal that the state needs to quit investing in it, which happened. Unfortunately, we experienced the state walking away from that, but fortunately we have a great partnership with BMCC, TVCC, and we have Danny and team working on a solution for that because it's too critical to walk away from that. That pathway from secondary ed, even in elementary ed, of getting students thinking about education, especially in Eastern Oregon, higher education, this program is too successful to walk away from, and so we've redesigned it with a couple of tweaks. One, it's going to cost more, but it's still a great deal for high school students. And also, we're building in a pathway to EOU, because if we're making those investments, we want a lot of those students to come to Eastern. We don't want them to go to Western Oregon or the other schools down the road. And so I'm excited about what Danny and team are doing in terms of tweaking that program to continue its success going forward. I throw up we're going to continue to, and we did invest in professional development. The Summer Institute for Instructional Technology is a great opportunity for me to meet some of the faculty and hear how we're utilizing the knowledge and skills we learned through this training to interface with our students in new and better ways, to make that experience better, to make that classroom experience, whether it's in classroom or online, much better for our students. And just briefly want to shout out our Center for Culturally Responsive Practices, which yet again, EOU develops a model that is now being considered across the state. It works into our diversity program, something that's critical for our university, and Tanya Lubis has been at the forefront of developing that, so thank you for your work on that. Shifting gears to student services, some great things. I think you guys saw that we got $1.1 million grant through TRIO that we are going to be able to begin investing in our student services group. That's targeted to first-generation students, low-income students, disabled students. Sounds kind of like a lot of our student body. It's great to have this additional resource that we can deploy. We do well. We've got opportunity to improve with our existing resources, but this is additional resource that we're going to be able to put to work immediately this year, so I'm excited with what Javier and team are going to put together. I mentioned Week of Welcome, and really the dynamic there is we're trying to create community. That's what I experienced when I came here, the connections that brought me out of my shell. That's what we're trying to do. They are developing a program to really break people out and create an energy on campus that's been missing and lacking for a period of time. As you guys know, Justin's been on board for a while. We have our Career Services Office now up and running. Excited about how that's going to develop over time and create connections for our students. We have student housing filled to capacity. It's fun to start talking about contingency plans. It's fun to start talking about what are we going to do next year when we have even more new students coming to EOU, because we will have more students coming on campus to EOU. We've got a great team. Like I said, I met with the RAs and Jeremy on Monday. They're taking on the challenge of creating a dynamic environment for our students and student housing. Jeremy's got some great new ideas of what we can do to actually leverage our existing infrastructure to get more capacity out of what we have, and then we'll start talking about building for the future as well. Don't want to get ahead of myself, but I'm really excited about the energy we're going to be creating, and the Student Services Group is doing a great job of getting this rolling forward. And We have a lot of new faces, new people in new positions, but it's exciting to hear what they're doing and accomplishing as a group. The team is really starting to gel in student services. I'm excited about that. And then a number of other things that I just lumped under university advancements, but it's really about how are we leveraging technology to our advantage. You guys heard about our website. I went on our website back in the day, and it wasn't very good. I hope you've all gone out there and seen the new website. My litmus tests are like juniors and seniors in high school. So I look at it, I'm like, oh, this is cool. But then I'm like, okay, tell me what the real scoop is. My daughter's a senior. And she went out and she's like, Dad, this is cool. She's looking at other institutions right now. And I love hearing her talk about EOU, our website, and the fact that it's a site that attracts her to it and it's intuitive to her. Because that's who it is about, is young people going to this website and being able to utilize it. So great job in that. We have a lot of work still to do in that space. If you don't have the Go EOU app, who doesn't have a smartphone? Oh my gosh, Deanna. Do you teach online courses? All right, everybody but Deanna, get the Go EOU app. And Deanna can hang out with you at the coffee shop and check it out as well. It's a new app. Again, the young people, this is a mobile world. These things even are kind of old hat. It's the smartphone and things like that. We've got to figure out how to engage, and the team's done a great job of building that. We're completing the wireless infrastructure across the campus. Again, it's all about the mobility and serving our students. This was an investment that was made over the last year. The team's done a great job of getting that implemented. We're working the social media presence. And I think most importantly, and not as obvious, is our CRM work that's going on. What's CRM? Sherry? Customer Relationship Management Software Support. And this is huge, but most of you won't see this because it's the back office type of things that helps our staff stay in touch with prospective students and students that are going through the admit process, that are going through the enrollment process, the financial aid process, so that we can stay keyed in and not lose touch with them, where if you don't have that system, it's really easy to have students fall through the cracks and get lost. So I'm excited about this system being deployed. We're in process. Some are deployed, some are not, but we're going to continue down this path over the course of this year. And then I want to do a shout out to Seth, because if you haven't seen Mountie Monday, I'm going to show you later today during the work session. Talk about a guy coming in and doing some great things using media and connecting our student athletes in a different way. And again, it's about making the Eastern experience visible for people, making people connect. And so I'll show you that. If you haven't seen it, make sure you're looking at Mountie Monday, because it's a cool pick-me-up. There's nothing better than get up Monday morning, pop that on, watch it, and go, you know what? That's what it's about here at EOU. Very cool. So thank you, Seth. Seth's not here. He's probably working. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of time, and we're already past my window, aren't we? Given we're running over. I'm going to have to go through this relatively quickly. Like I said, we're going to have lots of opportunity to talk. I'm going to focus internally going forward. But really, when I think about what we're going to do to build this university going forward, is it's built on 4 pillars. And the first components of those pillars are really about us. It's about performance. It's about delivering results that deserve support. What are those results? That's part of what we have to answer. What is really the important results? I can call out a few real obvious ones, and I'll show you some charts where we've got opportunities. But we've got to identify what are we going to be critically good at EOU, demonstrate that performance, because it changes the conversation with philanthropic activities. It changes the conversation in Salem, because now we're demonstrating the performance versus the common conversation of higher ed just needs more money because we're 46th in the nation, or because we used to be at X level back in 2007. That doesn't really resonate, but if we go and say, here's what we're doing, here's the performance we're achieving as a team, this deserves investment, that resonates with legislators. And I look forward to taking our performance to Salem over the course of the coming years because of what we achieve. We've also got to be working on efficiencies. There's a lot of opportunity for that. This fall we're going to be developing some systems that will help us with communication, which will actually enhance communication but actually have less of it. Maybe doesn't make sense. When we're communicating better. I think there are some things we can do there actually in the administrative office to assist in that way. But there are also other ways that we're going to put systems in place that I'll highlight briefly today, and we'll have opportunity to talk about in the future. And then last but not least, I have a philanthropic side that I really want to build here. I think we've got great opportunity. We've got a great story to sell as long as we're performing. So we have to start with us, start the performance, and we're going to go out and get private funds for this institution. I'm committed to that. So I want to talk about a couple of performance things because I'm excited. I live in possibility. I live in what's possible out there, and I have a vision for the future. But we have some real challenges. Here are our metrics in terms of freshman retention. And what I have up there, the blue line is EOU. 2014, our retention was 58%. Obviously not where we want to be. We all recognize that. We're working on systems to improve that, as you guys know. But I also like benchmarking. I like looking out there and going, what are others accomplishing? And so what we have there are a number of lines. I don't want to spend too much time, but the red line, the narrow red line up above is Oregon Public. So that's all Oregon Public School retention. I can't figure in my head if other public schools in Oregon can accomplish that. I think we can probably do better. We just got to figure out how to do it. The purple line are regional public institutions in the Pacific Northwest, so outside of our state. Look at the trend line, though. So the trend line of ours is downward. The trend line of other regional institutions across the Pacific Northwest is up. We've got to figure it out. We will, collectively as a team. We're already figuring out some of those things, but going forward, we're going to get better. I'm confident of that. Graduation rates. Now, I use 4-year. I never in my wildest dream contemplated 6-year graduation rates. I don't know why that's higher ed's metric, but it is. That when you go out and compare, in fact, Obama just unveiled a new comparison website. If you haven't gone, go out and take a look. I think it was Monday that he unveiled it. Go take a look at Eastern. The metrics will match up in terms of graduation rate, but they use 6-year. I think we ought to use 4-year. I think that's the intent, is to get through higher ed in 4 years, maybe even less. I think there are some pathways we can get through in 3 years. But nonetheless, we've got opportunity here. EOU is not leading the pack. We're leading the pack in terms of low graduation rates. So that's another place where we can have some investment, have some focused work, and really impact our financial condition and allow us to do what we do better from a faculty standpoint as well in terms of programming. I do want to highlight this. So in the future, we're going to have a state of the university address at a different time. I'm not going to do it Convocation next year. I'm doing it this way because this is the history at EOU. But it's been very frustrating for me to look at metrics, and they're all projections. I want to talk about the state of the university when we actually have students here that we know how many are. So we're going to mix that up next year. But for lack of better data right now, unfortunately, our enrollment numbers would suggest that we are going to see a drop this year. And here's the dynamic, part of the dynamic that's creating that. We have new freshmen trending in the right direction. This is exciting. That's building our base. But our transfers are way off, and we have a couple of issues going on there. Our partners in community colleges have experienced double-digit dramatic reductions in enrollment. They feed us transfers. So we have a structural problem there already working against us. On top of that, we're in sustainability. We're focused on cuts. We're focused on why things are wrong versus focusing on how are we going to make ourselves better. I'm not surprised that our transfer rate is down, but we're going to fix this. And I just sat down with the regional centers, which are a critical component to filling that transfer pipeline. And I shared with them that one thing that we're moving on right now in the next couple of weeks is a strategic review and strategic plan process of our regional centers. If you think about the history of the centers, and I actually understand the history pretty well, given my father was involved in this, in the last 7 or 8 years, our regional centers and distance ed program has been in disarray. Nothing against the people involved, but unfortunately, due to external pressures and such, we've made decisions. We've folded in the distance ed program into the whole institution, made some changes, and then had leadership changes through that. And so the vision of how we fold it in gets lost in a presidential leadership change. And so what I've done is I've gone out and asked Dixie Lund to come back in a consulting role, not as a board member, but as a consultant, to work with the team to do a strategic review and a strategic plan for how our regional centers are going to integrate into our university and actually propel us forward. Because right now, my story is we have some gaps because of all the leadership transition that's gone on. We've lost some of the institutional knowledge. What Dixie can bring is both the passion for that program, given her background. She can provide that historical perspective that's critical for this team to understand, and she also has the knowledge of the existing institution to bridge that gap. So I'm excited about that, and that added resource allows me to focus on other things at the same time that we need to work on our on-campus systems and such. So I thank Dixie for doing that, and also the team that's going to be working on that in the coming months. Sorry this is going long, but there is a lot of stuff to cover here. I do want to highlight a couple of system things that you're going to start seeing over the course of the next few months. We are going to build a financial model for this university. We have a new outcomes-based funding system, and I know that may make your eyes roll back some. But we need to make decisions at this university based on a clarity about how it will impact our funding situation. And when we get 60% of our state funding when a person graduates, we can't wait around in our system for 4 years to determine if decisions are the right decisions. If we wait that long, it's going to be too late and we will crumble. So we need to develop a model where we can do scenario analysis when we're making decisions about what degrees we offer, or new degrees, I should say, as we're thinking about how we invest in those and different scenarios of outcomes there, so that we can provide a decision point of not betting the farm, but finding a space where we balance the risk of a new program and the investment that we bring in with the expected outcomes. Again, it's complex. We're going to bring in some external resource to assist in this process. Laura's going to be driving this process. She's going to be working with HEC to develop this. It's something that will be a very useful tool for us going forward. I have something that I call scope documents, and something that's missing from this institution that I've already identified is connectivity in terms of what we may be doing on the academic side and what we need to do from a resource support side. So in other words, we have a new degree program. How many students are we going to have in that new degree program in 3 years? We probably ought to identify what we're going to shoot for, identify what resources we need to make that happen, ensure that we have the right marketing program, ensure that our recruiters understand what we're going after, what demographic in high schools or community colleges that we have to go after and target to actually grow that program. Unfortunately, right now, we're in silos, so what ultimately happens is marketing's working on something. They're working hard. They're trying to advance the university. We have the faculty working on their degree program that they're passionate about, and they're going, hey, we got something great. And so when the students don't show up, we're like, the marketing guys aren't getting the job done. And the marketing guys are going, oh, I didn't realize we were supposed to be focusing on that. I thought we were supposed to be focusing on this other issue. And our recruiters are doing something else. Again, everybody trying to do the right thing. But through some pretty simple systems, we can connect those dots and allow for clarity across the organization so that we can actually successfully execute. We're going to move forward on those kinds of things right away. And what I have are some screenshots, too, of how we're going to look at our program areas. And I want to make clear, especially for faculty, measures are important, but that's not all we look at. Measures are guidance tools. So as we develop how we analyze our academic programs, this is basically a visual for me. If we spend some time on this to say, we've got a program, the red line on the top one, that's business administration. Those are students that are in. The green line and the blue line is our faculty capacity. So we actually have a trend line that shows a lot of success, but actually for me that's a red mark. Because I'm going, are we going to actually be able to serve our students as well as we should? We need to think about what resources we might deploy here. On the reverse side, where we have the line below, again, it's not necessarily that the program's messed up. It's let's allocate and prioritize time to identify what gaps we need to close to be successful in these areas. And so these are systems that we're currently developing so that we can use these tools to help support our decision process. Again, it's hard to go through this in a short time frame, so I welcome the opportunity to start talking about these things as we go forward this fall. But I think they're tools that Sarah and team, Laura and team are going to develop over time in conjunction with all of you that will really help us be successful. I'm going to skip this slide given our time. All I would say is I keep hearing about an enrollment strategy. We're not going to have an enrollment strategy at EOU. We're going to have a student success strategy at EOU. If we get them enrolled, you saw the retention rate. Again, a marketer out there. 10 times the resources are required to attract a new customer as it is to retain one. We need to figure out how to retain our students and get them through to graduation. That's where you gain efficiencies and resources. So we really need to step back and think about what is our student success model, especially in the context of some new resources with the TRIO grant. A lot more I could go into there. Don't have time today. Last but not least, I want to just highlight the opportunity we have in front of us with our Board of Trustees. Addie spoke to something I was actually going to bring up. U of O is currently, as a board, sitting down and talking about policy on participation of board members. Can you believe that? It's brand new, and they have board members that are missing almost all of their meetings. And then I hear from other institutions that I won't name about, well, our board members are going off and doing stuff that we don't have any clue what they're doing. And so when I sat down with the President's Council a couple of weeks ago, I just kept going, we are smoking. We are perfectly positioned. We have fantastic board members that are passionate, they're participative, they want to do things to help EOU, but they're not trying to get out in front and do their own agenda. They're saying, what do you guys need? So we're engaging different board members in capacities that really work for them, that help us extend our resources. So it's another just great opportunity for us as an institution. And that's where I lead into together it's possible. That is my theme. You're going to see that in my tagline because our success is going to be generated off of us working together collectively, breaking down barriers that keep us from success. And this is my passion. EOU is my passion, and we will create a future. It's going to be an outrageous future, but it's up to us. That's what we have to recognize. We will create it. No one else is going to come do it for us. But I would tell you we have never as an institution, and I did a lot of research on the institution, we have never been better positioned than we are today to create an outrageous future. You can go, well, wouldn't it be better if you had more dollars? I don't think so. I think we're in the perfect spot there because we're not going to get lazy, because we still have to pay attention to our financial bottom line and our financial stability. We have a board that offers great resources. We have a faculty that I know is enthused about EOU and are passionate about developing our academic programs. You have a president that my mission in life is making this the best university in the U.S. I hesitate to share what I have in my mind for what we're going to look like in 2029. I'm going to wait until I get to listen more to you guys. Let's just say it's pretty bodacious in terms of what we're going to create as a university. And I'm excited to start the year with you. I apologize this has taken as long as it has. I look forward to getting to work with you on a one-on-one, team-on-team basis, because together it is possible. I believe that. I think we're perfectly positioned for a great future together. So please join me in looking to the future and creating that successful future that you see in your mind as well. With that, let's take a break. Before we do, though, I get to play teacher, I guess. So we'll take a break. We are actually 25 minutes behind where we wanted to be, but that's fine. Let's take, with this big of a group, 15 minutes. When you come back, I would ask that you mix it up. So please don't sit by the person that you work with frequently here at the institution. Try to find someone you don't even know, because part of this that we want to create is a community, and I don't want you hanging out with the same people. So I'm going to get this show going again at 20, right around 20 till. So please come back. Yes. Nice to meet you. Okay. So where's your office?